What's going on, everybody? Happy Tuesday. BobbyFi back with my man, Eric Sheets-Haber. We don't have junk slate today. We have an interesting, maybe a difficult slate for MLB, but certainly not a junk slate. It's not what we had yesterday. And, of course, that means, Sheets, you might be in trouble because those junk slates, you keep cleaning up, man.
Yeah, I can't. I'm not going to play tonight, I don't think. I mean, there's just too many good plays and like too many ways to score points. I'm like the NBA in the 90s, man. I'm like a defensive-minded, like DFS guy. Like if there's going to be a lot of points, I don't think I'm going to be competitive. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, for those of you that you know, we didn't do one yesterday, right? We just did the BetQL thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you know, yeah, yesterday was a slate where it was kind of ugly. And I kind of knew it. You know, when I said, boy, it feels kind of crappy to have to play Colorado on the road. But I just didn't have any other thing that I liked. And we talked about the weather yesterday, and you were dead right. You're like, all these weathers and all these places are kind of bad. I got to find something. And you were just one or two swipes away from that Kansas City thing kind of paying off. The only one that we didn't and again, why does this always happen? Like a team very rarely goes off when we think it's just not going to go off. But if like there's like a team that we just completely just don't even talk about at all, like we just forget to. I'm like, so like yesterday, we didn't even give the Toronto, like even like the time of day. Like I didn't even say, you even like Toronto? And you didn't even say, you like Toronto? I don't know if I would have.
I did say when we talked about, I said that you could play both stacks in that game. I couldn't figure out one off in Toronto that I liked. And by the way, did Toronto hit any home runs? I know at one point they had like 10 or whatever.
No, I think like Guerrero had like 30 fantasy points with like three doubles.
But that sort of speaks to what we were talking about the weather even. I think the Yankees didn't have it either, or the Yankees had one. I mean, that just goes again to just show you, look out for these little things that you can find this time of year. But at the same time, the Toronto stack scoring all those, like, that's a hard thing to predict. We're looking for home runs still, and when you're making a stack of a team or something like that, you can't win very often without hitting home runs in baseball.
Now, unfortunately, I think that today, I think you're going to be, I don't want to say surprised. I think, like, for those of you who are watching, the way I'm approaching the pitchers today is normally something that I expect Bobby to do, because I don't really do this all too often. But I think I don't know. We'll see where it gets me. And I think we're gonna. I don't think we're gonna fight over one thing, but we're gonna fight over something, I'm sure. And and you guys are so used to me now that you guys will probably already know like who I'm playing. Like hitting West. I'm sure Bobby's gonna just like say, okay, obviously you like this, obviously you like that. So we'll see how it goes. But I'm kind of zoned in. I think I kind of know where I'm going.
All right, I'm into it. Well, let's get started. Let's pull up your screen, and we will get started with the first one, which I'm just going to note that the Chicago-Pittsburgh game has the best hitters umpire and one of the best hitters umpires in baseball, and Bill Welke. So immediately I'm just going to say no pitchers in this game, even though ordinarily if he had no matter what, you can't play the pitchers in this game. The one thing I'm just going to mention to everybody is that, you know, I've talked all year about how Brault isn't as bad as everybody thinks he is. And I stand by this. Doesn't mean he's great. Doesn't give up a ton of power. I think he's given up now 2 home runs this year and maybe 3. But, you know, coming off a complete game, 2-hitter, what was it? I just think I'm gonna pass on the bats in general. I'm going to pass on the pitching and the bats as stacks. But I do like some of these individual hitters.
Yeah,
pull up the screen if you don't mind.
I'm going to. Yeah, I actually had a little umpire stuff with me, so I was going to chime in a little bit. And you know what? That was actually I did have that in front of me, that the Bill Welke is an extreme hitters umpire. So I did have that actually.
Nice.
Let me pull this up. And with that said, I do if you want to get into it, I do like the Cubs. So hold on, let's and I'll tell you this.
Like the Cubs.
What's that?
I feel like you always like the Cubs.
Well, and then the funny thing is that I was going to say, I can tell you this, if Bobby likes the Cubs, then they're just like a lock, because Bobby doesn't like the Cubs, right?
Well,
so here's where I'm at. I mean, I like the Cubs, like fine. Like on DraftKings, I don't even know if I'm going to get to them because I like 1, 2, 3, like 3.5, maybe 4 teams better. But I think they're fine. On FanDuel. And I think likewise, I think they're a secondary team for me. You know what I mean? Like I'm not too eager. I mean, I'm not too like, you know, jumping over myself to play the Cubs. I just happen to like them. I don't even know how much I'm going to get to them, but I think they're fine. And if you did play them, it would be for me, the obvious dudes. Like on FanDuel, I'm looking at first, like Schwarber, Baez, Rizzo, and Happ. And the other guy on DraftKings, if he plays, is Maven, is like minimum cost. So those are the guys. But again, not a huge rush to play him, but I like him a little bit.
Okay, so the thing
Did I put my screen up? Yeah, okay, sorry.
Yeah. I wish that I just treated like maybe it's because I've been stuck a little bit on my Brault take. I definitely don't mind. Like I think Contreras is one of the best catching options on the slate. I'm fine with Happ, but I just prefer other outfielders. Baez is too expensive, but it will be really low owned, and he's probably my favorite play, which just sort of takes them out for me. My next favorite play, I think that David Bodie at 3.2 is, if he ends up for any reason low owned, and I think he might. Again, it's still not great, home run power. But Bodie's like got extreme power, and I swear the guy he cranks out home runs against guys who don't have a high K rate, and that's what we've got with Brault. The problem is Brault doesn't give up a ton of home runs. Anyway, I'm okay with taking a guy like Bodie or Baez or Contreras, the cheap price of Rizzo. They make some sense as a stack. Even again, Brault has not been giving up many home runs. He's actually been pretty good. I think there's better spots to attack, although I like the umpire, and I'd rather play so many other outfielders at 4-something K than Ian Happ. For example, I'd rather just pay up for the obvious George Springer or maybe even the lefty-righty of Jose Martinez, or I would just rather pay down. So that's sort of the issue I'm running into with them. I don't like Schwarber and lefty-lefty matchups, and it just overall, that's just sort of where I am with them. I don't think I'm going to stack them here, but I definitely understand it. I think I actually have more interest in individual plays. Like I like Brian Reynolds a lot as a 2.7 as one of the value outfield plays, and I like Brian Hayes a little bit at third base, but Jacob Stallings also a catcher. Those are the three guys. I'm not going to play them in the stack, but all three of those guys wouldn't will probably find their way into my lineups.
My favorite Pittsburgh guy, if you were going to play a Pittsburgh guy, again, is right back to Brian Reynolds again. I wasn't going to get to really anybody else, but that would be my favorite value Pittsburgh guy.
Yeah, I think Reynolds is actually going to, again, show up as a good value on the slate, and I think he makes a lot of sense just at the top of the order. Also, you can steal bases on Quintana sometimes, even though he's a lefty, and every now and then Reynolds will take off. So maybe a little stolen base upside. Okay. All right, are you ready to move on?
Yeah, so I was listening. I had a lot of stuff going on, but I had a show that I do watch pretty much. I try to watch or at least listen to out of at least one of my ears every day. And I had to hear for like 20 minutes about Bryce Wilson. And then like throughout the course of the entire thing, they're like, well, I don't know if this guy's as good as Bryce Wilson, I don't know if I can give up any of my Bryce Wilson to get to him. I'm like, who the hell is freaking Bryce Wilson? So I just made a note. I asked Bobby about Bryce Wilson because I literally no desire to play Bryce Wilson or Jose Arena or unfortunately nobody from the game. I wasn't going to get to Atlanta today. I don't know why, but I just wasn't going to. Maybe I should learn my lesson that I just can never get Atlanta right no matter what I do. So maybe I should just maybe I should like erase them from the slate. So I wasn't going to get to anybody. Who is Bryce Wilson? Do you like him? And do you like anybody from this game?
I don't know how much Bryce Wilson's going to pitch.
Okay.
I mean, that's my issue. Like, if we can get an official pitch, thing on him, of course I'd have a little bit of interest.
Okay.
But I have literally no idea how much he's going to pitch. That's pretty much where I'm at. I don't really.
Okay. Fair enough.
I mean, he did throw 82 pitches in one outing against this team a couple starts ago, but he only went 4 innings in that time and only struck out one guy. I just don't really understand. I guess if you really needed to spend down, I just don't understand. There's other pitchers in the 60 whatever 100 range that I'd rather take shots on than him. But yeah, would it surprise me if he gets through 5 innings? I think he could do it. I guess he deserves to be on the list. I don't have any need to play him. I honestly don't really see a lot of need to save too much at more than one pitching spot and fall further down than other guys on my list.
Okay. Do you like any of the hitting or no?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to it's not that I think Urena's so bad. The bullpen's bad. They are playing for something, so they might go to the bullpen sooner, which is probably, I know it sounds weird, to say they're bad and then they'll go to them sooner, but they'll be playing the better part of their bullpen for the most part, unless it's 29-9, like the last time Wilson started against this team. So look, Atlanta is always on the verge of explosions. They're one of my favorite stacks, just by I like different places tonight, and I just feel like Atlanta is as likely as any to go off. I specifically really like Freddie Freeman. I love Albies. I don't care that he's batting, fifth, sixth, or whatever he is tonight. At least not ninth anymore. And then any of the other guys are fine, either Acuna or Ozuna. I would prefer Acuna, but I don't mind Ozuna. Urena's pretty good against righties historically, but I just think it's a spot where you can just try and attack. And because of their prices, I don't think they're going to be crazy popular. Austin Riley might be batting ninth. You can use him as your third baseman. I definitely will have some Atlanta stacks. I more have mini stacks and more of maybe a Freeman, Albies, and Acuna, or Freeman, Albies, and Riley, or something like that. This is just because they fit in interestingly as pivots. Riley is an interesting pivot off of Escobar, who I love at third base. And I'm sort of using both those guys a lot. I don't mind Riley at the bottom of the order with low ownership. So I think Atlanta's in a spot they could go off. I don't mind 4 or 5 man stacks, and I also don't mind if you want to pick just 2 or 3, which is mostly what I'm doing.
Can you hear me, Bobby?
Yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah, because my computer's freezing just a little bit on the video side. It's so funny. So, yeah, but as long as you can hear me, that's cool.
Yeah.
It'll refresh in a minute, then I'll be able to reshare my screen and move around a little bit. But
Okay.
Right now, you're probably gonna be stuck on this page for just a minute, probably.
I also think that Miami's interesting. And I think that Corey Dickerson is, again, a really solid play. Too cheap. You could throw like everybody, Birdie, Joyce. Like Joyce is probably may only get like 2 at bats, but he's 2.6 in the middle of the order, and he could get more. Like, it's possible. You know what I mean? It's hard to play Marte at that price. So I guess he and Anderson, I don't think I'm going to stack them, but I don't mind any of these guys. Like, I guess it would be Aguilar, Dickerson, Birdie, and Joyce in some sort of form. But Birdie, the bottom of the order, is less exciting, but he's actually a decent-ish hitter. So I guess if you're going to make us 4-man, include him. If not, go with the other guys. Atlanta's
that makes sense.
bad. They can get lit up a little bit. So I just don't love the spend-ups on Miami because the prices on Marte and just Anderson are just a little bit too high.
Yeah, I like if I had to pick Miami guys, it would be Dickerson and Aguilar.
Yeah, those are the best ones, I think. But Matt Joyce too should be easily in the pivots off of Jorge Soler kind of a thing.
Okay, you want to move ahead to Tampa Mets?
Yeah, what do we got here?
Yeah, we got. I got Blake Snell. That's what I have. I don't know what you have, but I have Blake Snell. He's one of the top 2 pitchers on the slate, and I'm gonna play him, I guess. I'm not I'm not the slightest bit interested in Seth Lugo. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, he projects fine, I guess, but I don't know, man. I don't know what to say. I'm kind of glad I don't need him in a way. Like, so what I'm doing is I'm actually going to be paying up for the pitching, which is not something I do too often, right? I usually like play up and I play kind of like a chalky mid-range guy.
Yep.
But I can get in everything that I need by playing both Valdez and Snell, if you want to know the truth. I don't need to be wrong or right on Seth Lugo, honestly, to get the hitters that I need. So I'm gonna let someone else play him. The few lineups that I am gonna pay down a little bit, I'm gonna go elsewhere. I'm just my line. I'm probably gonna go Singer. So I am. I'm just not interested. I don't like to attack Tampa too much with guys like this. I don't know. For me, everybody else can have them, and I had no particular interest in any of the bats in this game at all. So for me, it's Snell, and that's it, honestly.
So I'm sort of stuck here a little bit. I like Snell, but my issue is, like, if we're going to talk about, and maybe this is, you answered it sort of by just paying both up at pitcher, but like, I keep going back and forth with the Snell. I'm going back and forth between Snell and Valdez over and over in my head, and I don't really know why I'm going back and forth, like, especially on FanDuel. I just don't see why I would play Snell over Valdez with what we've seen, especially Tampa Bay just having clinched their playoff spot. There's a dangerous mix out there possibly for him. And I certainly don't think on FanDuel where, a guy who hasn't gone 6 innings and might end up being chalky, and he hasn't gone 6 innings this season, is like extremely poor placement is depending on the ownership versus a guy like Valdez who has a better matchup. The problem is I think that you're also going to get a lousy Tampa offense out there. I mean, you already don't have Meadows in there, and I don't want to play Lugo entirely. I'm surprised at how much love there is for him. I thought he was going to be like a guy I was going to use as a pivot off of the guys who I think are better plays. But that's, I guess, what leaves you where I feel about him. I think that against this specific lineup they might trot out there, he's fine, but I just think I'd rather play the other guys. Now, he'll probably be in like a lineup or two of mine, but he's not going to be a guy who is in my big lineups, which is strange because I'm looking at him as like, I'm seeing other people say he's like the start your lineups with him and things like that. And it's kind of freaking me out. Like it's one of those where I feel like but then again, I felt this way last time Lugo started, and I was completely right to stack against him. He gives up home runs 3 in a row after the leadoff guy. So I'm not saying to stack Tampa Bay, but I just don't know. You know, I don't feel strong enough about the one guy who I would consider playing from Tampa Bay if I played the hitter would be Arizarena. I can never pronounce. I think that's right. Just assuming that he's batting in the middle of the order, and you know the righty, he's not going to get pinch hit. Obviously, is likely. He's been a little bit hot. You know, he had a couple last week. I think he had a 2 home run game that followed by he had a home run the next day too. He's got some pop and he's really cheap. So he's a guy who I could find on my list. But in general, yeah, Lugo might be pitcher number 5 or 6 for me. But he's on my list. He's just not as high as everyone else has, and I don't know what. I need to look further because I don't know. I feel like I'm missing something. I feel like all of a sudden this guy is being treated like he's an ace, and I don't get it.
Yeah, I'm not going to look too much because I know the more I look, the more I'll talk myself into. I'm just kind of not doing it.
But I can even just tell you, just like let's just say we were just game log watchers, and even though he did just starting on the end of August, it's like he's only had 1 game over 16 fantasy points. It's not like there's anything. I don't know. I'm not as into it.
Not at all. Just to follow up on your Tampa stuff, the guys I like Arizona. Whatever his name is, and I like I like Kiermaier at 3K if I had to. You know what I mean? I'm really not going to play these guys, but Tampa, but Kiermaier and Nate Lowe. But I'm in no rush to really play either.
Yeah, I just think there's better spots in the slate in general. But,
and just to get right to it, I mean, like I do happen to like Valdez more than Snell on both sides, actually. Not like through the roof. That if I really loved some middling guy, I would go like 100% Valdez instead of Snell, right? I would definitely get some kind of mix. But if you put a gun to my head, value, with everything, I do like Valdez more than Snell.
I do too, and honestly, I don't care what the result is. I don't think it's that close. I might change my mind by the end of the day, but I mean, think about like we've seen Valdez extended in every start basically. Like he's never doesn't go the distance. He's got the best matchup and he's got the leash. Like I don't even know if Snell might not go out there and throw like 2 innings for all they need. I mean, who knows if he's got any little tweak of anything. I don't know. It doesn't feel as good to me. But I still am gonna. I think on DraftKings it's pretty easy to play them both if you want to.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
All right, so this next game is you're probably gonna murder me for this, but what's that?
I think I'm probably gonna be with you a little bit.
Yeah, I like both sides of this. Now with that said, this guy Aiken on another day on another slate and if you needed to get up to somebody or whatever, I mean he certainly has shown upside, man. I mean he's blown through the Yankees, he's blown through you know what I mean? Like he's definitely, he's averaged over a strikeout an inning his whole freaking minor league career also. So certainly has upside, but I don't know, man. I like Boston here and I like Baltimore here. So let's just start with it. But they're going to be, I imagine it'll be really chalky, but to me, the clear value is the Baltimore side. I mean, the same guys that we play all the time, Stewart, Hayes, Mullins, Mountcastle, Nunez, I guess. On DraftKings for sure. And then on Boston, I have Boston kind of similar to Chicago, Houston, another team we'll get to. God. But I'll tell you this, that on freaking FanDuel, I mean, he's probably going to be 100% owned, but JD Martinez, like, they insulted him over there. He's like 3,200 or 3,300 on FanDuel, which is kind of disgusting. So the Red Sox over there, I mean, just because you could play him,
I think it equates to basically the same price as DraftKings, to be honest. I think
is it?
Yeah, I think 32 is about the same as 43, and
okay.
that's how I'm looking at it. So I actually think that he's really cheap.
So I like Martinez. I like Vasquez at catcher. Whatchamacallit? I don't know, this Puedo. I don't know if he's playing, but Xander, even Chavez, if you want to save money, maybe Devers, Bobby Dalbec's pretty good. I mean, I think Boston's really in play, actually.
Yeah, I think Boston's in play completely, especially because I know what's behind Aiken in that bullpen. I've actually thought he's looked pretty good when he's been out there, but I right now I think I'm going to go more with like a mini stack. I'm trying to get some weather conditions because I want to do a little history check, because this looks like the bad Boston weather. Yeah, so you've got the wind blowing in at like almost 20 miles an hour from left field, which in Boston doesn't matter like the same way it would like in Chicago, but it still matters a little bit. And it's 62 degrees. You have the home runs based on, 20 some odd games. I won't say exactly how many, suppressed by almost 10% in these types of conditions. And not that these are not, all over the place, that this is not a huge sample. It's just worth noting, like, this is not the normal game we get in this situation. I think if I have to pick a side, I'm definitely going to pick the Baltimore side.
Yeah.
But I think that I'm still mostly looking at these for mini stacks. Francisco is one of the best plays on the board, assuming that he's going to bat in the middle of the order today. You can basically put him like as the.
So it's going to be him and not Severino.
I'm guessing it'd be Cisco today, just to make no sense. But I'm not 100% sure. I mean, you never know. DJ Stewart would be the other one. And against Homer Bailey, like I'm all aboard. Like, you could play any of these guys. I prefer the lefties, but Homer Bailey used to be a reverse splits guy, so you can play any of them. Cisco and Mullins and Stewart stick out the most, but Mountcastle, if you want to play Rio Ruiz for cheap with some power upside, down a little lower in the order, I like all those guys. So I actually really can get behind this spot. And again, I don't love the conditions so much. That's probably why I'm doing a little bit more mini. I also happen to like a couple other spots. But I think the Atlanta spot is still more my favorite, but I would play with them with some Baltimore. And I think JD is the best play on the problem when I look at the prices on these guys is JD makes so much sense, but nobody else really makes a ton of sense. Maybe on FanDuel more. Bobby Dalbec, you could argue, the guy's a monster. And a Bobby. Yeah, I mean, they're all fine other than that. I just don't think I'm going to stack them up. I'd rather spend up other places personally.
Now you confused me a little bit because you were talking about Homer Bailey. He's in a different game, right?
Not Homer Bailey. I'm sorry. It's basically the Boston bullpen game, right?
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, my bad. I don't know why I did that.
Well, it was the next game. That's why I'm saying, whoa, what's going on?
That's what happened to me. I clicked on the wrong button for a second.
So in the next game, I didn't have interest in either of the pitchers, and I had a little interest in Minnesota, but only for whatever reason on FanDuel. So I didn't really get to them too much on DraftKings, but on FanDuel, I like to know. I think on both sites you could play Mitch Garver. And then my favorite guys are the guys I don't usually play. So not usually play, like Donaldson I like, Sano I like. If Cruz plays, obviously he's in play. And you can always play Buxton. Like I said, they keep raising his price, but until he averages less than 2 home runs a game, I'm probably gonna keep playing him.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Minnesota just makes kind of like that. They're kind of a secondary stack for me on FanDuel. Like on FanDuel, Boston's like my top one, and then Baltimore and another team are like kind of my secondary ones, and then Minnesota, Chicago, are like that next tier for me, along with another.
So I have I guess it's more of a weird take when I saw that they didn't have the total out for this game early. I kind of like Scooble. Minnesota has just fallen apart against lefties. Now, there's enough history of being great against lefties on that lineup. I think they won their first 11 games this year, but now are 30th in the league in WOBA against lefties.
Wow.
So I can get behind Scooble here. And by the way, he's shown, a little bit of upside, this guy, against this Minnesota team even. He struck out 6 over 6 in the last time he faced him. He only had 2 hits in that game, and you thought, oh, well, maybe he only goes 78 pitches. But then he threw 90 in his last outing against KC and pitched 6 innings, struck out 8 there. I know it's an easier matchup, but still. So I don't mind taking a shot on this kid. Like, it sounds weird. I also think that a Minnesota full-on stack is totally in play. I could see this going very bad for him. At the same time, we saw him get wild a couple times, and that's just a dangerous recipe for this Minnesota team. And it's mostly that, it's the usual suspects. It's Cruz. I honestly don't think I could make a Minnesota stack today without Cruz, because it just feels like weird if he's not in it. Okay. But if he's not in the lineup, you could play Jake. I mean, I don't know where Jake Cave or what's going to happen with him. But I don't think they'll play him. But I guess if Cruz is out, I'm kind of curious to see who else they throw in there. Buxton, Sano. I think maybe Rosario gets a slight edge over. They both have at times at lefties. But Buxton, Donaldson, then Sano would be my favorite 3. And Garver. Garver ahead of Sano. Sano would be 4. But I like all those guys. Donaldson probably makes the most sense at third base. Then you play him and Escobar are right there with each other to me.
Well, and the other thing is that if you play enough lineups, if you really think you need to play like Scooble, I mean, remember you're going to get an incredible ownership discount over Lugo and even to some extent Singer if you play him in that same range. So you'll be getting him at.
Yeah, I've got some Singer and what's his name, Scooble lineups together.
Oh, really?
Just to get a little different.
Nice.
It's a funny slate because there are a lot of spots that I'm good with, but I don't feel like a stacker or a player that oh my God, I need to have that guy.
Right.
Hitting wise. So I can sort of where I want to pay up for my hitters. I was like, okay, I can take a shot on my pitcher here and then just play the San Diego team. That's where I'll play San Diego is when I play those off the board pitching combos.
All right. You want to move ahead?
Let's move on.
All right. So St. Louis, Kansas City. Like I said, when I first looked at the slate, last night, I'm like, ooh, they get to play the Singer dude again. So I'm probably going to play him. He isn't projecting all that great, but
projections are not real. They're just.
But I know what I saw. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't know. I'm sorry. I know what I saw, and the only reason that I know what I saw is because it took me to get a complete game shutout from Kyle Gibson to have more points than this guy. You know what I mean? Like so Singer was just freaking on fire, and I don't know. Let's put it, I know what I saw. So he's a good play. I'm not particularly afraid of St. Louis. You want to know the truth? And if I need to spend down on him, I'll spend down on him, and that's where I'm going with that salary. Now it's funny. I wasn't going to play the KC side, but some of these freaking values, like you were talking about, just stand out like so hard, we'll just start with Soler. I mean, that's just like a misprint, right? I mean, like,
right.
That's real, but I mean, that doesn't mean you have to play him. But I mean, if you play cash or whatever it is, and you probably have to play him, I suppose.
He's the best point per dollar play on the slate if we play this 100 times.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, but I'm not going to stack them or anything like that. But he certainly looks like a. Look, if I love every other part of my lineup and I got 2,500 left, I'm certainly putting him in. That's for sure.
Yeah, I don't think that they're going to be very popular to stack, and I don't think it's the worst spot in the world to give the stack a shot. You got the middling guys, which people I don't think will go for. Maikel Franco's another one of the 3.7 guys at third base that you could use as opposed to Escobar or Donaldson. Hunter Dozier. Even if he's a little further down in the lineup, you got a lefty. Look, Hunter Dozier, I always talk about him. Guy's got a lot of power, and he's a better real life hitter than people give him credit for. And I feel like he gets overlooked a lot in DFS. And he was 1% owned last night, and I just think at 4K, he's actually like a really solid guy to pair. And you play Soler, maybe Dozier and Franco, and you can always throw in either Witt or Perez as a spend up to make it a stack. And I don't mind it. I just think I would prefer going with one or two. And it's going to be hard for you to talk me off of Soler. Compared to the other value out there, which there is good stuff like in Baltimore. And that's one thing you can do is okay, so just to give away an obvious strategy on today's slate, that might be a really good way to go. Or I don't know, it could be a little chalky depending on how it goes, but you can just play Soler, Mullins, and Stewart and stack the infield from San Diego at $1 million a piece, and you can do whatever you want still.
Right.
So that's a great, that was the first thing that stood out to me was San Diego's going to be popular. If I want to stack them, I can stack them on the infield. Same thing you could do with the Dodgers, by the way, if you want to leave bets out. And that's the natural thing I thought of. If I can play the two guys from and all of a sudden I'm averaging 2,500 for an per outfielder, and I've got power and everything upside. It feels great to just do that if you want to do that.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be as popular as you think.
Well, then it's something that we should probably talk about doing, because think about it. DJ Stewart on his own at 2.4 is obviously a ridiculous play, just based on production all year long and recently or whatever. So is Cedric Mullins. And you have a little bit of correlation there. You could even throw another Baltimore guy in and make it a 4-5-3 or a 4-2, whatever, a 4-3-1 or something.
And if you wanted to play, like you said, if you wanted to do either San Diego or the Dodgers, even preferably.
Here's your lineup. I just built it. Here it is, sheet. Cisco at catcher. Your outfielders are Mullins, Soler, and Stewart. And then your infield is, Tatis, Hosmer, Machado, and Cronenworth. There you go.
Or Seager, Muncy.
Or Seager, Muncy, Bellinger. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
All right. All right. So are we done with this one?
Yep.
All right. Boy, that's fun. I'm actually I'm excited. I got to remember that, because sometimes we hit on the shows where we end up actually coming up with the right final solution.
Yeah, I gotta grab one
And I feel like that, just that outfield combination with a bunch of different infield stacks could.
You gotta grab two. You gotta grab one with LA and one with San Diego, I think.
Yeah, and by the way, don't discount. I usually always say you have to play the Minnesota outfielders. You could always sub one of those outfielders out, throw in a Minnesota guy, and then stack the Minnesota infield too. But anyway.
Again, I hate to say it this way because I'm probably not going to do it, but if you don't want to play Singer and you don't want to play Skubal for whatever, I don't know why you would really want to play Skubal, but if you don't want to play Lugo, I'm not against playing Griffin Canning a little bit. San Diego's rough, but righties can strike out from San Diego, man. It's not. I don't think it's the worst play in the world. As a matter of fact, I would rather play Canning than Lugo, if you want to know the truth. Just given the ownership discount. I'm not going to do it. But if you're playing 20 lineups, for example, I would honestly put in a Canning lineup before a Lugo lineup. I just would. Maybe I'm just stubborn about that one, but that's where I'm at with that. And I again, until you gave me that idea about how to play the San Diego guys, I really wasn't gonna even try to get them. You know what I mean? I didn't have that much interest in San Diego at all, honestly. And the Angels, not really. Davies at 9,900 is just kind of a misprice in the wrong direction. He's good, he's fine, but there's 9,900. Yeah, you can make the case, boy, if you want to use a great pivot off of Valdez, okay, yeah. It's a great pivot if it works but it's going to work one out of freaking 20 times in the spot. You know what I mean? You need Valdez to fail against the nut matchup and Davies to, you know what I mean? I don't know. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, I really don't like this matchup for Davies, but he's been really good all year long. I'm not going to play him. Right. I understand your points about Canning, actually. I think that's kind of an interesting take. I think I prefer the other two over him.
Yeah.
I just because San Diego does kind of scare me a little bit.
Sure.
But I'm not, it wasn't like San Diego. I thought, okay, I need to stack them right here. But the reason why people wouldn't stack them would be the pricing and just figuring out that little part with the outfit. I love their power upside in every matchup. If they're going to be hard to get, it's going to depend a little bit on how the ownership shakes out. But this team's power is just absurd. You could argue right now, it's more concentrated with them maybe, but you could argue with their power versus the Dodgers, and it's tough, man. Machado is just, I think quietly Machado is he's been their best hitter, by the way, which is crazy after how long this year's been with Tatis. Machado's turned it around, has actually been their best hitter. All right. So I can get behind the stack. I don't see anybody I must have. If there's ever anyone I'm always going to play, even though I just said that about Machado. Give me the stolen base upside addition for Tatis and the fact that third base is stronger than shortstop today for once. And I would take Tatis as a one-off. I will just note to everyone that Tatis has not hit a home run in a long time. And I'll have some of them, and I'll have some of what I talked about, but this is not my favorite stack. I prefer Atlanta. I kind of prefer some ways Minnesota, even though I'm also like, I want to see what happens with Cruz before I decide on that. And I like Arizona and the Dodgers coming up, so we'll talk about that.
So Houston, Seattle, we talked about this, on and off throughout the course of the slate, but Valdez is the best play on the board as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Good matchup, good talent, good strikeout upside, just pretty much everything that you want. So that's that. And the Houston bats, just as long as they're going to be like affordable like this, they're just kind of going to remain in play for me, even if they're not like just actually producing. Right? Like they're I mean, they're playing again. They're up against like Ozzie Newsome or whoever's pitching for Seattle, right? And so I'll have some Houston. I just will. I'll have them on DraftKings. On FanDuel, I will have them a little bit too, just because I just know where I'm going with this. You know what I mean? Springer, Brantley, Altuve's still, cheap as hell and whatever. Bregman too. Even Correa if I need him at shortstop. So I mean, these guys are just kind of all in play for me.
All right, I love George Springer tonight. This guy's been absolutely just crushing the ball like nobody's. God, he's the only reason Houston scores any run. He's hit 6 home runs in the last 10 games. I'm going to read you the 10 games real quick. Their scores. 3, 3, 3, 2, 0, 4, 1, 7, 1, 2. And he has 6 home runs in those games. Has anybody else done anything? Like, I mean, seriously, is he responsible for every single run they've scored? He's also got 11 runs scored. They only scored like 11 runs. I don't understand it. So I love Springer. I think he's one of the top overall plays on the slate. I don't know what I can do with the rest of this team, man. I think it's just I feel like I just may have to almost let it go. Like it's just my first instinct was to stack them. They were the first, and then I can't do it anymore. It's too many times. It cost me too much money this year. And it's not like I'm just being recency biased. They're terrible. Like their offense is awful, just absolutely awful. Outside of Springer and Tucker, nobody deserves being rostered on this team. I love Brantley as a real life hitter, but he's only got 4 home runs all year. He's hitting 311, which is nice. He's a pretty sure guy to get you something, but like on a big slate, like I get it. I probably might end up with a stack because I'm stubborn. But I don't really have a good justification of why we should be playing these guys anymore. It's getting ridiculous. It's at the point now where it's almost like playing the Pirates, who are scoring like the same amount of runs. What are we even doing? And maybe we should treat them like the Pirates outside of Springer. I mean, that's how they deserve to be treated. You know what their guys are hitting this year? They don't even deserve to be in the major leagues. Bregman's with 4 home runs, 238. Jose Altuve, the future MVP, 220 with 3 home runs. These are not major league hitters at this moment. Yuli Gurriel is hitting 245. Like, I mean, and he's one of their better guys. So, like, I don't know, man. I think I'm just going to say, F it. The worst bullpen in baseball possibly behind this awful Seattle situation. Whatever. I will take probably one stack and then just say, because I'm stubborn, and just say I can't do it anymore. I'm tired of it. I'm so tired of them this season.
Hey, I'm going to give you I'm going to give the people out there who are watching just some real – I'm going to say real high-level stuff, but I'm so 100% sure that this is correct. So if you play George Springer, all right, and you're playing in tournaments where people like enter like a bunch of lineups, especially the smaller ones, he's going to be he's going to be a little lower owned than he should be, and this is a stupid reason, okay, but I would say about 35% of the sites that are out there, at least the third ones I look at, when they come out with their projections like on the early side, they account for the fact that he's out because he was out yesterday, okay? They rested him yesterday just for like load management or whatever. So in the first run of projections, he doesn't show up, okay? Only after like later runs, some of these sites have him show up. So that little tiny bit You know what I mean? I really am of the belief that it keeps some of these guys that had these just day off or rest just kind of down just a little bit. For the people that are lazy and just kind of run your crunches and don't have time and say, okay, whatever fantasy cruncher tells me to play, I'll play at like 11 in the morning and just don't even worry about it, you know? So that's that. Just wanted to throw that out there. And I agree with you. I mean, you know, they haven't done anything, and it's not that really stubborn. I mean, with anything, with whether it be baseball or golf or anything, you have to sort of balance, you know, short-term form versus long-term form, right? And yeah, there's a certain amount of long-term form that does have to get factored into, you know, to Houston's chances. And yeah, you certainly have to respect the short-term form also. And that balance is, you know, it for a sport like baseball is very, very tough to wrap your head around.
Yeah, Houston deserves to have been punished and lost last night because Dusty Baker, who used to be an old school manager, but now apparently just believes StatCast that. So Springer is considered high risk for injury for playing 8 games in a row.
Oh, is that what it was?
And I mean, look, last game he was 3 for 4 with 2 home runs and a stolen base. Seems fine to me. Like, what are you doing in the middle of this is desperation time. This is the last week of the season. I don't even understand it. Like, literally, that's a fireable offense to me. Or an owner should call down and say, hey, our best hitter, our best player is playing in a must-win series for us. Imagine if that happened in basketball. It just couldn't happen. Anyway, so I think Springer will be in the lineup, and I love him, but I think I'm mostly out on the rest of – and this is, of course, probably the night where they go off. But I'm just tired of it. I'm not going to do it anymore. I cannot just put up like 30% of my money every night and then have Houston just destroy me and then expect to win. It's not going to happen.
All right. Texas, Arizona. I like both sides of this game. I like the more chalky side, which is the Zona side, and I also like the lower owned Texas side. Arizona for me rates to be the second best, you know, values of the board behind Baltimore. And yeah, they're going to be owned, and you know, the good thing is you don't have to play Rojas. Like, you could play Walker, Escobar, Peralta, Calhoun. Those are my 4 guys. You play them on DraftKings, you can play them on FanDuel, and they're going to be owned, but they're certainly good plays. And I like the guys I always like on the Texas side: Solak, Tavares, Odor, Tejeda, Gallo. I think they're in play also. So I like both sides of this game.
Yeah, I like both sides as well. I prefer the Arizona side. You know, I have a love for picking on Lyles. And I was a little disappointed that their total came in as high as it is because now everybody's on them, obviously. But, like, when I first looked at this last night, I was like, okay, I think I might be able to get Arizona lower owned than they should be.
No.
And, that's not going to be the case.
No.
So, yeah, I mean, like, let's see who's hitting where or whatever. I don't mind. I don't like playing Rojas or Van Meter, but I don't mind doing it in a stack at their prices.
Yeah.
Overall, I like the stack and spot more than I like the hitters. I think the roof is going to be open. I'll double check that before our next show. Calhoun, Peralta, Varsho, Escobar are my favorites.
Varsho, I forgot about him.
Which are like, feels weird to say, but that's where we're at.
Calhoun's a little expensive, but I mean, he's fine.
Also, Stephen Vogt, if he's in the lineup tonight.
Okay.
He's sort of a sneaky one down there at the bottom. You can use him instead of Varsho. So yeah, I'm very into the Arizona stack. Caleb Smith, I still have the memory of him being a good pitcher, and I have a very recent memory of how bad this Texas team is. Sometimes he can be a little bit reverse splitsy, and they don't really have like a lot of great righties that you want to attack. You can play the switch hitting Calhoun or Tavares or Solak. All those guys I think would be, you know, your natural guys. But I think Joey Gallo is a terrific play in a lefty spot, and if Odor, assuming that he's in and everything. One of Odor kind of for left to fill out a stack makes sense to me. Not my favorite stack of the night, but I don't mind looking for it. Just feels wrong to stack Texas because they don't score any runs. But at the same time, there's some power there. And to be honest, they've scored more runs recently than Houston has. So we can, if we're going to talk about Houston, we should definitely, you know, Texas at lower ownership at cheaper prices. I think we can play some of these guys. But Solak, Gallo, Tavares, and Calhoun would be my favorites.
I just actually noticed Caleb Smith is actually just listed as the opener. So
actually, Calhoun probably won't be in the lineup. Sorry, I don't know why I said that. He used to be a switch hitter. He's not anymore.
I was going to say Caleb Smith is actually just looking to be the projected opener. So just if that's going to factor into what you're doing at all.
Yeah, I think if you're playing Texas, I think playing trying to look for some home runs is better than it is trying to. You might get 3 innings out of Caleb Smith, but yeah, I mean, I just don't think it's like. I think you could just look at 1 or 2 guys at a time, maybe even 3, but I don't think I would go further than that in a bullpen game on a full slate.
So I was going to pay up for pitching and not play the Dodgers. That was my thought. My favorite guys on the Dodgers would be just the normal guys like Betts, Bellinger, Muncy, Seager, Turner, Lux, these normal guys. They're kind of like, I mean, I don't know, you know them better than I do. It would seem like they're being kind of cruise control right now and, give guys a couple at-bats, you know what I mean? Like maybe sit somebody. I don't know what they're going to do, but I didn't have a big priority to get them. But again, like if you wanted to do something like you mentioned earlier, like stack the outfield with the cheap guys and just pay the crap up in like a GPP for these guys. I mean, they're still the Dodgers. I mean, and Alexa's going to tell us how the weather is over there in a second, I presume.
Hey, Google, what's the temperature at 7 p.m. at Dodger Stadium?
The temperature in Dodger Stadium tomorrow at 7 p.m. will be 73 degrees.
It's the same tonight.
Anyway. That's not bad.
Yeah. It's all right.
Not bad. But I really wasn't going to do too much of that. I wasn't going to play Dustin May. I wasn't going to play Montas. And I wasn't going to get to the Oakland bats, although it's kind of interesting that I guess we should always – is he not playing? Is he hurt, Olsen?
I think he's going to play. I'm not 100%.
Oh, so I mean, he's literally always in play. So for me to say don't play anybody from Oakland ever is kind of silly, especially against the righty. But no big hurry to play anybody in Oakland. And I really didn't have a need. I don't say need. I really didn't have a desire to play the Dodgers that much today. How about that?
Yeah, I think that it's just a matter of like Montes can struggle with lefties, especially lefty power. So that just immediately is going to, make me interested in the Dodgers. The Dodgers don't need to win, but they think they clinched the division with maybe they were they need to win in San Diego. They're almost done. They're almost clinched. So I just think that it's one thing I've noticed with them lately. I don't play Pollock anymore because they're pulling him later in games for defensive purpose, which he used to be a great fielder. But they're also they're sort of coasting a little bit in certain spots, with the exception of a guy like Mookie who's kind of trying to win the MVP. It feels like every day. So there's probably some extra stolen base upside for him. He's also legged out a few triples lately, as well as hitting his normal being on fire. So I like Mookie as the spend ups in terms of if I was going to pick one of him or Bellinger, even though I like the lefties in general better. But I like the infield part of it. I like the Bellinger, Muncy, Lux. Those would be and Seager. Those would be my favorite play. Seager's the number one for me, but mostly because I just like him better than all the other shortstops, except for he and Tatis are close. But he's a little bit better. So better tonight. I like the Dodgers, and they will be one of my stacks, but it's not a spot where I'm looking like I need to play them as a one-off. However, I don't mind any of them as one-offs. It's just weird at their prices to do. So maybe you'd be a little different in playing one of these guys like a Muncy or a Bellinger or Seager as a one-off. Although Seager, I think, will be played as a one-off.
I wasn't going to be – you want to go to the last game?
By the way, if Jock's in the lineup, I do really like Jock at his price.
I was going to ask you about that. Get his 2 at-bats and be done with it, yeah?
He might get 3, and it's, time off, and maybe it's, he comes back and just, rejuvenate. You know what I mean? That happens sometimes. He was gone. He had a family thing. If he's back in the lineup, it would just be nice, to get him at 3,300 and 2,700 on FanDuel. 3,300 on DK. I think he's one of the, the home run upside spend downs.
Okay.
All right.
Colorado, San Francisco, again, as opposed to yesterday, where there was very few options hitting wise. So I felt as though I had the need to do something like Colorado. I'm not going to do it today. And likewise, San Francisco's, they've broken the hearts of a lot of GPP guys over this season. I mean, a lot of people thought they were in really good shape before San Francisco puts up big numbers. I'm not going to do it today. Freeland's always, and we talked about this. Freeland's sneaky. You know what I mean? He can You know, he doesn't give up like all that much sometimes when you think he might.
The ball on the ground.
Yeah, so I'm not going to play anything from this game, honestly. You know, I could force something, but I'm really not. I mean, you could play Darren Roof at 2,400 or something like that, but I'm not. I'm really just kind of off of this game.
Yeah, I can't figure out anything to do. I guess rough would be like the play, but I'm not. I don't find myself with anything from this game as of right now. Maybe, maybe if some other value isn't there later in the day, I'll look over here. I do expect some weird lineups to come out, so just keep an eye on the lineups today, guys. We've talked a lot about some players, but there's teams that have been eliminated mathematically. There's other teams desperate to win. Just make sure to take a look at the lineups. You know what I mean? One thing we've got to I just want to point out just from a baseball thing. The White Sox and Twins are fighting for the division. There's a 1.5 game separating them. That's a big spot for both teams, obviously, which would make you think a guy like Nelson Cruz would try to play. The Astros are basically in desperation, need to win every game mode. And the A's have basically locked up the division, so I'm not as interested in playing many A's in general.
What about this Cy Young stuff? Who's in contention for that?
So Bieber's going to win it in the American League.
Okay.
The National League, I would have to double check exactly what the numbers are right now, but it's not anybody who's pitching tonight. I'll tell you that. Zach Davies, would be the closest thing.
Really? Okay.
He's 7-3 with a 2.6 ERA. Like that's on pace for what 20 wins and potentially. If he maintained that for a full 60 games, then that would be probably as good enough to have a shot.
Right. It's going to be DeGrom, right?
Probably maybe DeGrom.
Yeah.
It just feels like I feel like DeGrom just always gets it in the National League. Like it's just as automatic these days.
He's won 2 in a row, right?
And if you have Scherzer out for the year, that's the only competition for him. So what are you going to do? But other things that are races, they won't apply as much today. The Rays are in the playoffs, but the Yankees still have an outside chance of catching them for the division. Those are, by the way, winning the division is a huge difference than winning the wild card. To not have to play a wild card play-in game, is a very, very, very big deal. So don't think these teams don't want the division. And the Padres are 4 behind the Dodgers for the best record in baseball, actually. But the Dodgers, you'd think they'd keep their foot on the gas and just try to end this thing as soon as possible, not leave anything to chance. So I'm thinking the Dodgers will still put their best foot forward going tonight, but that might include some defensive, adjustments for guys like Pollock, stuff like that. It's exciting, man. It's almost playoff baseball. It's going to be really fun.
When does that start?
It's got to be a week from today, right?
How many games are left? There's only like a week left?
Well, actually, no. There's going to be longer than that because I forgot some teams haven't played as much. Like the Marlins still have.
Oh, that's right.
Well, actually, the Marlins only have 6 left. Is that right?
Are they going to be in the playoffs, the Marlins?
They're not. They're one of the teams in competition. They're 4 games behind the Braves for the division, but then they've also got a good shot at the wild card. They're actually currently in the wild card spot along with the Padres, but there's a chance that they're fighting with the Reds, Cardinals, and Phillies.
It doesn't matter. Have to win Manager of the Year.
I guess.
They're the Marlins, and they had
hard to say.
They're the Marlins, and they had COVID. They had no players.
No. For sure, it's amazing, but the Padres deserve some acknowledgement for what they've done. I would never vote for Dave Roberts, but the Dodgers have been epically good this year. If you put this over a full season, this is one of the great teams of all time. That kind of good. So, there's other guys to be mentioned, but I certainly think that, you make a good point. How about the Rays manager, though? They're 36-19, second best record in baseball. And this just happens every year with the Rays. You're a Yankee fan, so you know this. At least the Rays are usually – they always contend. And even if when they don't, when they're having a total rebuild, they get rid of everybody and all their stars. They win 84 games. They're always good.
Well, you know what? It's it cuts both ways. On the one hand, I'm really of the belief that, that there's really no use for a manager in baseball.
I know.
Yeah, I know. We'll get into that one of these days. You have the computer figure out what to do and have the computer figure out where everybody should go and who should bat where and who should bat whatever, how many pitches and all this stuff. And yet I can't have it both ways, because Tampa's very, very statistically driven, right? So on the one hand, I'm like, how can you give the Tampa guy Manager of the Year? Yet on the other hand, they just always outplay their talent. You know what I mean?
All the things we make fun of them for doing is what makes them great. And it's what Joe Madden used to do. And by the way, look, it annoys the hell out of us as DFS people and everybody knocks Joe Madden, knocks the Rays. No, everybody doesn't realize how good the Rays are. They always talk about pitchers against the Rays. They're like, oh, the Rays have no offense. The truth is they play every hitter. They have 17 guys who bat twice a game. Like they're just so weird, but they play every game like a playoffs game, and it works for them. And I think he's has done an incredible job. Also the A's manager as well. I mean, the A's are just been incredible for a team where their best hitters hitting 170, and they are their best hitters out. All right, Sheets, that was fun. I think to the answer tonight, real quick, home run calls. Sheets, do you want to name a few before we get out of here?
So I'm not allowed to say JD Martinez, I guess.
Of course you can. That's fine.
Fine. So then in that case, I will say
I said you could.
I know, but I'm not going to anyway. I'm going to go with just to make sure Gallo hits one tonight, I'm not going to say him. I'll go the other obvious. So I'll go with Springer.
Okay, I have him on my list too. I'll go a little bit off the board. Well, not off the board. Okay, my cheap guy would be Soler.
Okay.
My middle guy would be my low middle guy would be Buxton. My middle guy would be JD, and my spend up would be Mookie.
My lower guy, who is going to be from the Boston game, will be Dalbec.
Oh, okay. I should get a little bit of him just because we have the Bobby thing going. And the last time I said that, he had a home run. So, have you seen that guy?
I have 1,000 Bobby Witt rookie cards that are worth like 5 cents each. That maybe we can do some business.
To scratch off the name and write Dahlbecker.
Exactly.
All right, man. All right, guys. Hey, thanks for hanging in there with us. We got the QLTV show coming up. For Sheets, I'm Bobby saying we'll see you at the top of the leaderboards.